and good morning, Groovers from the cockpit. Behold it, Scott Schmear, hello, g'day. And yeah, a bit frosty in the cockpit. Let's get some things happening. Do my pilot checks. Bit of windscreen defrosting would be good. It's a pleasant 5 degrees Celsius here in Tassie on a Monday morning, 6:58 a.m. We have an amazing sunrise happening at the moment, so I'm going to hit that there road and hopefully you'll get to see some of it in a second because it's quite the show. It's pretty specky. G'day, Cement Shoes. How the fuck are you, Groover? Just because I'm a tiny bit early, I'm going to go this way just so you all get to see this sunrise I'm talking about. Oh, damn, why does it... The panoramic camera just doesn't give you what it gives me. Hey, Dad. Like, don't get me wrong. That looks pretty, but it's way prettier in the flesh. The naked eye. And there's also a crescent-shaped moon happening. I'm going to have my squeaky new wipers on because as soon as they stop, the windscreen's frosting up again until we get some heat happening. But yeah, I had that little tiny glimpse, but it was mesmerising me. Didn't want to leave my deck and head to work. I wanted to sit and watch the sun come up. But yes, it's a brisk cold morning, although we're meant to be getting to about 16 Celsius today, which is actually kind of spring weather. We had a couple of days back to back with the weekend that were felt like spring. Like there was one night I didn't even put the heating on. It was so warm. And yesterday I was in a t-shirt most of the day. Like I think I put a layer on at like 4 o'clock, but only because I went for a walk on the beach. AJ, hello. Good Sunday afternoon to you, good sir. Guys, I had so many things planned to do on YouTube on the weekend, but life, what do they say? Life gets in the way while you're busy making other plans. I had heaps of things I want. There's so many things I want to go live. Hi, Kerry, and talk about, but it's been a very testing few weeks, as many of you know, not just for me. Like the thing that's really affecting me is how many people that I adore who are very close to me who are all just so sad at the moment. But unfortunately, the sad tales of woe continued. And I feel like my weekend, I mean, I did get things done, but I feel like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, but like yesterday, I literally spent the majority of it on the phone to people in need of love or face-to-face. And in fact, on Saturday was very similar. And I ended up running out of words. Like I was all talked out. So going on YouTube wasn't an option because it would have just been me sitting there looking at the camera like a stuffed mullet and all of you guys going, is she going to speak? It's actually very foggy this morning, but this camera filters out the fog. You don't see fog, but there is a lot of fog, a lot. It's not pea soup fog, but it's put your headlights on fog. Like it's not all the can't see any friggin' fog, but there is fog, trust me, and it's very pretty. There's also a crescent moon in the sky that's pretty awesome, and it's like one of those really thin crescent moons that looks like a fingernail clipping. It should come into view now, up at about 1 o'clock, maybe 2 o'clock. Probably partially obscured by traffic. Fuck me dead, Tori. Get out your words. See, I told you, I've run out of words. There's cables. It's on the other side of the cables. The power line. Power lines! Jeez, guys, help me out here. But you'll see it in a minute because we'll be away from power lines very soon. It's at 12 o'clock now. Well, it was. Now it's at probably 11. Moon spotting. So, yeah, this live drive is really a bit of an apology for, well, not an apology, but an explanation for my absence. There's nothing better than talking to people you love and having amazing conversations and numerous cups of tea and all of that sort of stuff. But you guys know what I mean, where you just feel like it's so foggy here now, it's getting really thick. And you can't see it. There's no fog. It's foggy as fuck. Visibility was low in that patch. It's a bit clearer now, but why does this camera filter out fog? I mean, of all of the mysterious and spooky weather things, fog's up there, you know. Aloha's getting on. Just a reminder, guys, when I'm driving, I can't read chat very often, especially like in conditions like this. I'm focusing on the road, obviously, other people's safety and mine too. But if you do make comments that you want me to see, try to time them with when we're crawling in traffic rather than like now when I'm banging down an open road or on the highway shortly. But also, if you guys are chatting amongst yourselves, go for it in lowercase because then I can just go, that's cool, they're just chatting amongst themselves. But block capitals and pretty short sentences. I know it's a bit primary school kind of approach, but I don't want anyone to feel like I'm ignoring them. And sometimes people do, which, you know. Some people are a little bit precious and need attention all the time. Not many in this community, but I've had a few people accuse me of rude or ignoring them when I'm doing this. And it's like, when have you gone live on YouTube driving and how did you find it? I kind of feel like I'm sharing scenery. If I have anything to vent about, I have my vent. Get that out of the way before I get to work. So if you guys have issues, you can drop them in the comments and hopefully I'll see a couple of them and that might be the theme of the drive. And yeah, when it's safe, I do glance, but the phone is a long way from my face. We've got very strict laws here about mobile phones and cars. If you're seen touching your phone, you can get into big trouble, let alone using it. But if they're in a bracket, like people use GPS and shit like that, so, you know, Navmans and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I will glance at chat. But sometimes if people have something really important to say, I try and time it when I might be able to see it, or post it again. Like, you're not going to get timed out for repeating shit. But together we can make this a better place. I must admit, the really butthurt person who said, "You never read my comments when you're on your driving lives." I've never seen them again. Which annoyed me because I wanted to address their snark, you know. So many people do that. They leave a really snarky comment under a video and then they just vanish. And it's like, fuck you. I want to respond to that. You're wrong. Like when I was getting all of those people telling me I had to expose Grace Tame's alleged lies, the comments that they were leaving me under my videos were so fucking nasty. There was one girl, well, her YouTube name was female, the YouTube name was female, fuck knows who it was. And they left these really nasty comments based on things that I'd said, like I just said then, alleged lies, because they were telling me to expose these alleged lies. So not having investigated and studied and compared statements ad nauseum to reach a conclusion of whether or not I thought this person was lying, until that had occurred, I was going to call it alleged. I'm a fucking lawyer. I know what people get sued for, and I'm not going to make out that they're not alleged when I haven't even investigated and found out what I feel about it. And then I get this fucking snarky, they're not alleged, I saw this, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, they're not alleged to you then, but they're still alleged to me because I'm not taking your word for it, fucker. But then they unsubbed and I didn't get an opportunity to respond to them. How weak is that? But every word that came out of my mouth, they ripped to shreds. I mean, these were people, I don't know if you guys remember them, but these were people who just barged into lives. Admittedly, in one of them I was talking about Grace because she had been essentially on a public speaking junket with Brittany Higgins, a trial that I want to follow in my life. But they don't even come in and say, hey, g'day, or hi, chat, how are you? Nothing, just straight into telling me what I needed to do. And there was one person, the first time it happened, who was so fucking, like, they just insisted and just kept doing it. And I don't know how many times I politely asked this person if they could just stop and let me finish what I was talking about, that we timed them out. And then more of them came in, and again, you know, the first couple of times I'd respond politely, and then it was like, guys, stop this, you know, what are you doing? I'm happy to have this conversation, but show some manners. Anyway, as a result, that fucker came out of timeout and banged straight into it again. Timed out again. Came out of timeout for the second time. Did it again. Blocked. Pretty fucking patient and tolerant, I would have thought. I've seen creators block people like that the second they make their first comment, but no, not me. Anyway, this nasty, bitter, jaded fuckface who made everything about allegedly her, I addressed it, someone who was clearly from Adelaide, and she's like, I'm not from Adelaide, I'm from Geelong. I'm like, I wasn't talking to you or about you, but thanks for making it about you. And good morning to everyone in Geelong. Go the Mighty Cats. But she then put a comment under my thing about, I was in that chat, I saw what you did, you were blocking people. And it's like, listen, fuckface, I was in that live too. It was my fucking live. And we were not blocking left, right and centre. People were given time out to learn some manners and come back in and ask nicely if I'd look into something. And for a moment there, I was intrigued. I was not going to lie. Wasn't 100% convinced I had the time to look into it, nor was I 100% convinced that the motive to do that was strong enough to spend my time doing that. Like, what was the point, right? But and they didn't give me a reason that I should be doing it other than they clearly have a vendetta. And that's not good enough for me. Give me a better reason than we don't like her and we want her exposed. For what? I mean, she doesn't have an Australian of the Year title anymore. Like, what do you want me to do? But anyway, yeah, this chick's telling me what happened in my life, and I was in that live. I saw what happened. I'm like, well, I was in that fucking live too, and I was the one that was talking to your buddies and asking them to at least acknowledge the chat or me or both of us, or all of us. If people want help with stuff, I will help them, but there's a please and thank you component that's really important to me. I'm not going to be told, oh, we're on the new road, Groovers. Some of you may not have seen this yet. Look, we're on the new bypass. Woo! It opened last week, and our community page, honestly, I love this community so much. I love Tasmania so much because in Tassie, life is simple. We're not simple people. Well, Amy on the current season of Beauty and the Beast is a bit. I fucking love her. I think she should have her own show. I'm actually incredulous that she can eat with a spoon. That girl is mind-blowingly random and vague and, dare I say, a little bit stupid. But I still love her. I love her a lot. I hope she gets to the end. But go Tassie. But yeah, life here is simple. And the excitement over the opening of that new cause, of that new bypass, oh my God, it was the cutest thing ever. Yeah, I tell that aggro ho what's up. So yeah, we just went on the new road, but the community page was so cute because they'd announced the opening and there were people in there. There was one guy who's like, we were the second car to go along it. And then there was another person was like, we were in the first 50 cars, and they were loving it. And I was thinking, how gorgeous is this that people are excited about the simplest little thing or the smallest little thing like the opening of a new bypass. Well, it's not really that small. It's going to shave a shitload of time off our trips in and out of town. But and I was thinking, this is how life should be, you know, celebrate the small victories and let people get excited about things like that. When there's so much shit going on in the world right now, how refreshing to see a social media page of people just being so excited that they've been, you know, the first 50 cars or the second car to drive on the new causeway. And then there are other people that, I don't know, they might have been in the first 1,000 to drive on it, but they were all talking about how much they loved it and how we've got a completely new view in that little bit driving in, and because we look out across the water, it's just stunning, like this causeways. I live in a painting, so does Deb. And AJ lived here, she knows what I'm talking about. You feel like you're living in a painting when you live in this place. It's amazing. But anyway, it's a very cute little island, heart-shaped island, not the other map of Tassie reference. But yeah, but of course, there is always that one person that has to, you know, piss on the parade, burst people's bubbles. I can read chat now. So if you've got comments that you would like me to notice, this is your time, Groovers. But yeah, there's always that bloody party pooper, right? So then on comes this chick and she's like, well, shame the East Coast bypass hasn't happened yet. And I'm just reading it going, oh, fuck you, you grumpy bitch. Like, everyone's excited. And all these roadworks are happening in stages, and stages are determined by need, and need is determined by population. You enjoying the ride, Sketty Nana? It's good to have you on board. It's now 4 degrees. I've now got the little snowflake on my temperature gauge. I didn't have that when I left home because it was a balmy 5 degrees. Although it's going to be 16 today, which is pretty nice. It's kind of spring weather. Like if it's summer and it says tomorrow is going to be 16, everyone's like, what the fuck? Brr, that's winter weather. But when it's winter and you get a 16-degree day, it's like, holy shit, it's tropical. So anyway, yeah, there was that bubble burst and I thought, of course there's one person, but I was like, no, I'm not going to respond. Anyway, I went back and looked at the community page to see if anyone had sort of said to her, how does it feel to be the glass half empty person all the time? But instead, people were really reasonable with her, and they're like, well, it's still in the plans, and it's one of the stages of the ongoing development, and, you know, just be patient. And, like, the people were really nice to her, which was also refreshing, because usually people like that just can't help themselves but be whingers get, you know, piled on, and rightly so. But everyone was really decent to her. I was like, thank God I didn't respond. I mean, I was just going to say, my standard line for people like that is you must be a hoot at parties. Check out this place, seriously. Also, apologies to a couple of people who've left comments and sent me some emails, especially Blue. I read your gorgeous email and I'm so sorry I haven't responded. I was so, what's the word? I was all talked out. I just needed to watch some good, wholesome, funny, brainless TV. Oh my God, guys, I don't watch a lot of commercial television, but seriously, Beauty and the Geek is the most wholesome, heartwarming, and funny show. On TV. If you guys outside of Australia can find a way to watch Beauty and the Geek, and I thoroughly recommend you watch it from the very first season. You get quite a few whinging assholes on your lives. So I don't get many on my lives. I'm more in my comments, but and I don't always think they're trolls. Sometimes they're just people that are just fucking grumps, you know? Like sometimes you go and check out their channel and they've got very often more subscribers than I've got. Oh, guys, Finn sent me a video the other night, which is one of those people on YouTube giving other creators advice on why their channel has frozen in time, which mine has. Like the subs aren't going up or down, it's just frozen. And it was really fascinating. Essentially, YouTube, and they're a bit late to the party, but all of their attention at the moment is on shorts on YouTube. People that are doing shorts, their channels are growing rapidly. But people like me who don't do shorts, we're all just, stuck. Any book recommendation? Have you read any Leanne Moriarty books, Getting on her? She's the girl who wrote Big Little Lies, that fabulous TV series. Although, I mean, look, I loved it. I think Reese and Nicole and the crew did a great job. Laura Dern, all of them. But the only thing I was bummed about was Leanne's an Australian author and that story was set in Sydney. And when I read it, that's just how I visualised it. But, I mean, they did do a great job with it. But it's, her name is spelled Liane, and she's written heaps of books, but they're really good reads. But the thing that got me into reading her stuff is she's always got really strong female and male characters, and they've often got shitty things happening to them, but she doesn't, like, the characters aren't, they don't slide straight into that playing the victim thing that so many human beings do. Like, they're accountable. So, like with Big Little Lies, the character that Nicole Kidman played is in a very violent relationship where the smoking pot Alexander Skarsgård played her husband, and she actually was addicted to the sex that they would have after the beating, so she essentially encouraged the beating so she'd have this mind-blowing sex with him. And she took responsibility for that. And I loved that Leanne empowered these women in their roles but didn't make them all victims. So I find her books really good. And that Morgan, hello. And hello to anyone else rolling in. Why? G'day, Groover. I'm a bit preoccupied with the road at the moment, but hello. Yeah, so I love her. I love her books. Her writing seems very simple, but it's actually very, what's the word? It's incredibly readable, but it's not simple writing at all. Her writing is exceptionally good because she covers really full-on issues, but gets you hooked and you can't put the book down. It's one of those. So I don't know. Don't know if you've read any of her books getting on it, but I'd give Leanne Moriarty a go. Or if you want to read a rollicking good book about Tasmania, there's a book called Bruny, Bruny. It's named after a little island we've got here. And it's a rollicking good read. And funnily enough, my family, as many of you know, I was born into a never-ending decade after decade, generation after generation family of politicians, and there's political characters in it, and it's often been said that they're sort of based on our family, but not what we're like as people, thank fuck. But yeah, it's a good read. So yeah, I don't know, Skitty Nonna, you might find that a good read as well, but or if you want another book which I recommend to everybody because it's just such a great philosophy, it's beautiful to look at, and it's a pick up and read a chapter. They're only 2 or 3 pages. Ikigai, which is the Japanese secret to living happy lives, Ikigai. It's my favourite book. It's beautiful. It teaches you how to simplify your life in so many ways and how to look at things with a slightly different perspective, unless you're already Japanese and living Ikigai. But it's just such a beautiful book. It's this gorgeous sort of quail egg blue cover with cherry blossoms on it. Like it's pretty to even just to look at it, let alone read it. Oh, you have read a few. Okay. There's 2 that you haven't read. Okay. Because 9 Perfect Strangers has been made into a movie, I think. Actually, I forgot to follow that up and see what happened. Like, Nicole Kidman's in that too. And that's the one that's set at a health and wellness spa. And weirdly, before Leanne wrote that book, she went to Golden Door, which is the health and wellness spa I've been to a couple of times. It's amazing. But she went there for sort of inspiration, and there's a lot of things in that book that you're like, that's so Golden Door. You're speaking Japanese, Scott? Brunei, Bruny. We've got a little island here where I spent my summers as a kid, Brunei Island. It's cute as. It's a foodie haven too. They've got everything there. They've got oysters. They've got cheeses. My mirror's fogged up. Hopefully there's no one next to me. But yeah, other than that, I haven't read much lately. I mean, I do get into bed and read. I'm reading Leanne Moriarty at the moment too. The Apple Doesn't Fall Far from the Tree. No, that's not what it's called. The Apple. I forgot what it's called. Doesn't Fall Far. Apples and tree. It's got an apple tree on the cover. And yeah, I always think, oh, I'll just get into bed and read a few chapters. I'm like 3 pages in, donk, I'm out. I really shouldn't read in bed. I used to be able to read in bed for hours, but now if I'm lying down and my head's anywhere near a pillow, sayonara, baby. Good night. But some of you groovers might have some book recommendations too. Guys, it's like 7:30 and I'm fairly close to Hobart Town. I think that new little bypass is working its magic. Oh, we're back to 5 degrees. I've lost the snowflake off my dashboard. Apples never fall, that's it. That's the one I'm reading at the moment. But I've got a massive pile of books on my bedside table. One of my bedside tables is basically my library of books that I started and haven't finished. And when I finish Apples Never Fall, I have a commitment and an obligation to go through them and finish them. And there's some bloody pearlers in there. But there's some heavy shit too. Like, I can't do heavy shit for too long at the moment because my life's been heavy. I need the lighter sort of stuff. And when my life is light and fluffy, I read the heavy shit. I have to moderate my exposure to light or heavy. Actually, there's a book that Rob Lowe wrote, like an autobiography, that a friend of mine loaned me, several years ago, and I did chew through that really quickly, and it was fantastic. He's such a nice guy. And it's got a really cool name. It's something like Stories I Only Tell My Friends, which I loved. That's probably not quite the name, but that's the... Oh, there's more fog. But again, you can't see it, guys. There's so much fog. Like, crazy fog. You might be able to see it in the distance, but we are in the middle of it too. Visibility is getting a bit average, I'm not going to lie. I'm slowing down. There's always that one car in conditions like this that doesn't have their lights on, and you're like, could you be any more ridiculous? But yeah, if anyone's looking for a TV show that'll just make you laugh, and it's a huge reason it makes you laugh is because Sophie Monk, who hosts it, is just fucking hilarious. Like, seriously hilarious. She was a bachelorette one time, and it was gold. Her season was hilarious. She's a hoot. She also hosts Australian Love Island. Um, but Beauty and the Geek, the reason I love it is my ex, Jim, and I found it, and this is like back in the early 2010s, I guess it started, because that's when we were together. And there were all these other reality shows happening with, you know, massive prize money and people that were clearly just seeking fame. And when Beauty and the Geek started, I think the prize money was 50 grand for like for two people to share. It's now gone up to 100,000. But the fact that the prize money was so little, and they played all these games that were so basic but hilarious. And Jim and I loved it. We were like, this show is so fucking cool. And you've got all of these geeks and all of these so-called beauties that get paired up and they have to do challenges together. And this season, I've missed a few seasons, so I feel like I'm going to have to go back and watch them because it's just feel-good telly. But this season, there's quite a lot of love already happening, which isn't the point of it. I mean, it's if they meet someone and fall in love or have a crush or whatever, that's a bonus. But it's not a dating show. It's more about the geeks learning to be more confident, and also for the beauties to learn to focus more on decent human qualities and looks. Oh, man, so it sounds like there's some good cooking going on in the chat. I will be focusing a lot, though, because, yeah, it's very foggy and we're about to go over the bridge. And I can get over, which is a bonus. Yay. You smell bacon. My favourite food group. With this place, I'm going away with my friends in less than 2 weeks now. You have to give me any dietary restrictions. And I said, look, I am allergic to pork. And over the phone to this guy, and he's like, oh, my God, how can you live without bacon? And I was like, well, interesting you should say that. I should have said I can only eat uncured pork. Don't be putting any pork belly on my plate, but bacon, pile that fucking shit up. You don't know me at all. Unless I get a traffic light action here. I slowed down to try and get the light, and it still didn't change because I've got a parking ferry and a traffic ferry. It's my mum. Wow, it's so foggy. Can't even see Hobart or the mountain. We're wearing masks again in the office, and I'm asking my boss today if I can work from home next week because I am going on this extravagant bucket list holiday with my friends, and COVID is fucking everywhere here at the moment, and I'll be really jacked off if I get COVID in the week that I'm about to take my first holiday in over 2 years. Like, I will be absolutely gutted. And I think I only get like 50% of what I've paid back, and 50% of what I've paid back is on its own an extraordinarily ridiculous amount of money. But I can justify it on the basis I haven't travelled overseas since 2019. But yeah, I'll be absolutely gutted. I suspect she'll be fine because the directive, the federal government directive, like their health spokesperson, chief health officer or whatever they're called, is encouraging employers Australia-wide to let their workers work from home if it's feasible, because our hospital system is just stretched to the limit everywhere. And so they're trying to minimise risk and reduce the number of people that keep rocking up to hospitals, basically. So hopefully she will agree. I mean, yes, there is a selfish component in that I don't want my holiday fucked up. But I also feel like we should be doing our bit as citizens, and we should be working from home if it's feasible. And it is in my job because I've worked from home a lot in this job. So I don't think it'll be an issue. Send out positive vibes, it's not an issue, because, yeah, imagine that. If I got coming to work on Monday next week and had to go into isolation for 7 days and completely missed my holiday. Hey, Shanna. Look at this foggy, wintry morning, Shanna. Monday morning. This is how my day starts. I love it, though. I love moody weather. Fogs are mysterious and creepy. I mean, we're all true crime buffs, or a lot of us, most of us are. That's how we all met. I mean, fuck, Stephen King's book, The Mist, is the scariest book I've ever read. Closely followed, well, on equal, actually, not the scariest book. I have two scariest. Silence of the Lambs. I read that book before the film came out. My mum gave it to me. She's like, this read, because she knew I loved crime. She said, this is a really confronting book. I'm not sure how you're going to find it. And I found it fucking terrifying and brilliant. And the movie's great too, but to have buried myself, that was I can't put this book down. And I was like, I don't want to turn the page because I know it's going to get worse. But I've got to. The Handmaid's Tale, when I read it, seemed a little bit fanciful. But then when I watched the series, I read it again and I'm like, holy fuck. That's pretty much what's going on in America right now. In 1984, I read in year 12 at school, which was ironically 1984. And we've been living in that world, George Orwell's world, for many decades now. When I flew to Wales, it was right after the British Airways bomb scares at Heathrow, and that's when they brought in all the restrictions on what you could take on the plane. But I flew when they gave you toiletries. You couldn't even take toiletries. You literally could take your wallet, phone, keys, I guess, and passport, and one book. That was it. They gave you everything on the plane. You couldn't travel with your own toiletries or anything. And I took 1984 and read that. It's still one of my favourite books of all time. All you can hear now is someone screaming, Carol Ann. That was Poltergeist, wasn't it? And the howling. Those fucking werewolves just running around in a really foggy forest. The Mist scared the fuck out of me, though. That Stephen King short story. Oh, my God. I've never felt more included in a book than that book. I was there. It was happening to me too. It was creepy as fuck. You graduated high school in 84 too. Yay! Class of 84. Woohoo! Go us. I actually graduated twice, though. I graduated from the school I went to here in Tasmania in 1984, and I graduated from an American high school in 1986. I was class of... This boom gate's stuck. Hopefully it doesn't work out how to unstuck itself and squash my car. I leant over my left-hand the left-hand side of the car, just in case the boom gate went down. Crunch. Well, it's gone down now. Sorted its shit out. But guys, it's 7:45. I don't start till 8:30. This is sophisticated. And my park is here, so I can put on my makeups. 86 was fun in the USA. I lived in Kansas City, Missouri, and it was the year that the Kansas City Royals won the World Series. I'm not sure if it was in 85, the end of 85, or when was it? Because I know they'd won it again, and it was like 30 years later that they won it again. But Kansas City went off like a frog in a sock. There was Kansas, like that royal blue color everywhere. Even the McDonald's smoothies, they did blue, like shakes. They did a blue shake, and they put blue food coloring in all the fountains. And Shanna was in preschool in 84. Well, you are my baby friend. Run DMC, God. That was a blast from the past. Mind you, my senior pics from Oak Park High School in Kansas City, because I was there in the 80s. Holy shit. Same with like my prom dress. Oh my God, my prom dress. But Kansas City's fantastic. I loved it. And going from tiny little Hobart to Kansas City was the size of Sydney, which was our biggest city. It still is, but it's about to be overtaken by Melbourne. But so it felt like, the big smoker. But I mean, I spent a lot of time. We had 6 weeks in LA when we first got there, like orientation, and we lived at UCLA, and that was heaps of fun. And obviously did lots of big cities like New York and Chicago and Boston and Annapolis, Maryland. I'm kidding, Annapolis, I know it's tiny. Oh, my prom dress was so ugly, man. It was disgusting. Our theme was Gone with the Wind, or Southern Belle, or something like that. And oh my God, it's the ugliest thing ever. I'm going to be putting some makeup on for a minute. I will find a photo. But Fabian, my date, he was also an exchange student from Germany, smoking hot. And I had this fucking pale blue, white lace, hoop skirt, southern nightmare of a dress. And Fabian was also an exchange student, but at a different school. And as it turns out, his prom was on the same night, so we went to both. And I don't know what the theme was at Fabian's school, but essentially we went to the Oak Park one first, where I fitted in with everyone else because we all looked like fucking Scarlett O'Hara. And then we went to his one, and it was some sort of like party all night thing, or, after midnight or something like that. And I said Annapolis as a joke, but Annapolis is one of my favourite places in America. And I mean, that's where I met the beautiful Ted. I'll have to tell the story about Ted one day. But yeah, so we rock up at Fabian's prom, and everyone's in like amazing tuxedos. All the men just were sleek as fuck, and all the women had these slinky white or black or white and black dresses on. It was a bit like the Ascot Racing Day black and white theme. Did he look like Fabio? No. God, he was hot. I'll show a photo of Fabian. My God, gorgeous. Ted Bundy, no. You probably wouldn't be listening to me if I'd had an encounter with that fucker. All right. I'll do a bit of makeup, and then when I've got my foundation and powder on, I can chat again. I don't know why I'm putting makeup on. We're wearing masks. Maybe I'll just do my eyes. I'm just going to do my eyes. No, I'll do my face. It makes me feel professional. You were the suburbs of India. Indianapolis. Cool. Oh, Shannon, you'll see it. But yeah, so they were all looking incredible. And there was this other Australian exchange student, Selena, who was, we became incredibly great mates on the flight over because there were like 78 Australians. And then we stopped in New Zealand and picked up another 40 exchange students. So there were like over 100 exchange students from Australia and New Zealand all going to the US of A for a year. So we were all shoved up the back of the plane. And it was back in the day when you could smoke on planes. And we pretty much just chain smoked and drank because there was also free grog, and did song competitions like you had to sing, and the first person who fucked up the lyrics, they were out, and you keep going till it was down to 2 people. It was so much fun. I think everyone else on the plane hated us. But anyway, so Selena's there and she's got this smoking hot body and this slinky little dress on, and there was another exchange student from South Africa called CJ who she ended up marrying, and he was decked out in a really hot tux, and Fabian was smoking hot. Fabian had a white tuxedo with black pants, that kind of look, but he pulled it up. He was like this 6'2" smoking hot German dude. And there's me in the middle of it all with this fucking, yeah, that's what the dress was like, but way worse getting on her. Everyone had superstar names when you were in school. Selena, Fabian, Victoria, very exotic. Oh, there were Beckys and Kellys at my school. I had heaps of friends called Kelly, and the only way you could tell them apart was they all spelt it differently. There was a K-E-L-L-Y, K-E-L-L-E-Y, K-E-L-L-I-E, and lots of Beckys too. Oh, there were those as well. Must have been just the exchange students that had the exotic names. Lots of Brendas. My host sister is a Brenda. I hooked up with her in Hawaii a few years ago after 30-something years, and that was pretty hilarious. You smoke clove cigarettes on planes. Well, the cloves would have made the plane smell nicer than the fucking all the Australians and Kiwis up the back chain smoking. It was insane. Amy's was scary for you. Okay. For me, the scaries were the Michelles. I had a very scary Michelle at school, and ever since then, I've still got a really good friend called Michelle, and I love her to bits. But when she's unhappy, she scares the fuck out of me. Then I worked with a Michelle who I absolutely adore, but I lost her in the divorce. Like, she stayed with my ex and his group of friends, which was understandable because she's the stepmother of a girl that one of his sons married, but I lost her in the divorce. And but love her to bits too, but she has a side to her that I'm like, whoa. Shanna's never met a likable Amy. It was Jennifer's for you. Yeah, Jennifer's are an interesting group, aren't they, Shanna? I didn't have a really bad Jennifer experience until Shanna and I met. I'll leave it at that. She out Jennifered all the other Jennifers. The other Jennifers weren't really bad news for me. They just were kind of in the background a bit. But yeah, Shanna and I, that name is on our list of beware. Isn't it funny? All girls scared. Oh, why? Why? You're the funniest person ever. Girls love funny men. Well, I do. Girls are scary, though. That's why I spent most of my time romping around as a youngster, especially in my teens. I was all for the hanging out with the boys. I mean, Most of my life I've been for hanging out with the boys, to be honest. It's only really in my later years that I've started to appreciate the really good women in my life and the close friendships I have with them. But it's not that I didn't get on with girls. I just preferred to not hang around them. I couldn't handle the shrieking of women. Courtneys were usually trouble. Courtney was a name that wasn't really around in my generation. Like they kind of came a bit later here. Like we had a lot of Stephanies, Dianas, Melissas. Exactly, Shanna. Less drama, more silliness. Exactly. And my parents' friends, they all sort of had kids at the same time. And my sister, even though she's only 16 months older than me, but the first sort of batch of kids with my sister was a bit of a mixed bag. But then the second lot of kids that came along, they were mainly boys and then me. And then I had a younger brother and he brought a heap of boys into the world as, into my world as well. And same with cousins. The boys are the ones I gravitated to. Amber's were shitty. Tina's are bitches. This is hilarious. And look, I don't care if people go, oh, I've never liked Victoria's. or Tories. I can handle it. I might prove you that they're not all evil, So funny. There's a girl next to me putting her makeup on too. Us people who live out of town, it's better to get to town early and put your makeup on in the car. My sister taught me this trick. Speaking of Tina, my mum, her name was Marion, but she was known by everyone as Matsy. But back in the day when we used to watch Sale of the Century, was it Sale? Yeah, I think it was Sale. That was the quiz show, wasn't it? If you got questions wrong in that show, you actually went backwards. Like you could go below zero. The farthest they'd let you go is minus $20. But it was always a great episode when there was somebody really stupid on there who went backwards. We kind of didn't really watch it for the winner. We watched it for the loser. And you had 3 daughters. It was so hard to name them. You've been a guy friends over girls most of it. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've got some females in my life who are unbelievably amazing and precious to me. But like, just for example, this weekend gone, and I spent the majority of it on the phone or with friends who are all processing horrible stuff at the moment, 90% were male. And the longest conversation I had with one such person is a dude, and it went for 2.5 hours. He rang and said, do you want to catch up? I was like, oh, fuck, I've got to go to town. I'm really sorry. I said, not for a couple of hours, but I've got a few things I need to do before I go. 2.5 hours later, I was like, we could have met for coffee and had several. Oh, thanks, AJ. Guys are easier. And also just the sound that a group of women make. Like, I do not like hens nights and avoid them at all costs. I'm appreciative of COVID for many things, weirdly. But not being able to gather in a large group of women anymore. Yeah, bring that the fuck on. I used to wriggle my way out of hens nights because I just cannot handle the sound of a group of drunk girls. Especially indoors, in like a bar or something, a restaurant. Oh my God, the sound, it makes my anxiety go through the roof. A huge part of my anxiety is sound related. And yeah, that noise of a group of drunk women. Oh, no, 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 thank you. I'm just putting my foundation on. I'll be back in the chat in a moment. Maybe I should just do half a face. No, I'm not going to put my whole of it on. Because, yeah, we're wearing masks in the office. I am happy about that. And my boss will probably say, when I say, can I work from home next week, she'll probably say, you'll be fine here, just wear a mask. And we're like, it's more about, I mean, I've brought my lunch into work. I'm not leaving the building. I just have to go to the meter at the end of the day and pay for my park and then get the fuck out of here, go straight home. But, you know, people are saying they literally walked a block in the city and got it without really doing anything or touching anything or speaking to anyone. It's like, well, I don't know. I've accepted it's part of our world now, and it's probably quite inevitable that we'll all end up getting it at some point because it's so fucking contagious. I just don't want to get it right before I go on holiday. If I go away and come back and I get it, I've got another week and a half off. I can spend it in bed, whatever. I just don't want my holiday cancelled. I need my holiday, man. Been over 2 years and I'm exhausted. I just need that break from having, I mean, I wake up before my alarm, but even psychologically, just knowing I've got an alarm set, to not have to deal with that for a couple of weeks is going to be amazing. You know, to be able to go to a gym class in the middle of the day on a day I normally work, that sort of stuff I get excited about with holidays. Plus, I'm also going to try and go over to Adelaide and see my friend whose mum died a couple of weeks ago because we had a beautiful chat yesterday, but I couldn't get to the funeral. I could, but it was going to cost a crazy amount of money and also numerous airports and very long waits in each airport and 3 different planes just to get there. And I'm like, yeah, that's when you get COVID. And I could see myself getting to Adelaide and testing positive and then being shoved in a quarantine hotel for $3,000 for a week and basically FaceTiming into the funeral or FaceTiming her for chats. I'm not actually getting to see her. Or saying, this is my hotel, I'll go and stand on the balcony and wave. You know, that knowing my luck. But it's after the funeral and everything when people's lives continue, as they should. But your world is still frozen in time and you're like, how can you all be getting on with your lives? Like, why is the world spinning for you all again already? It's still not spinning for me. And that's when you need someone around you. So hopefully I'll get over there for maybe 4 days. So I might have an alarm, but it will be to catch a plane. And yeah, hopefully I don't get the COVIDs. But I mean, I've kind of accepted it. I'll get it at some point. Hey, medicine man. See, naming a girl, I think it was easier than naming a boy. Actually, I don't know. I've got pretty firm views on boys' names that I like. Because I couldn't have kids, I just named all my furniture and my car and things like that with the names that I liked. And then my last 2 floofs that I've rescued, they were already named and there was no way I was changing either of their names because Biscuit was just the best name ever. And it suited her so much. And she was such a little character. And then Sunny, I mean, she's divine too. And they said to me, do you want to change her name? And I said, yes. And they looked at me with this, really? I was like, yeah, I want her to have a middle name and it's Biscuit. So she's Sunny Biscuit. It was funny the other night when I was out with my sister and my nieces. It was my niece Lily's 16th birthday and we went out for sushi. And Jemima, my other niece, and Lily, they were talking about babies and babies' names because Jemima's in her mid-20s and she's got a long-term boyfriend and she's just built her first house and she built it. And they were talking about babies' names, and Jemima wants to have a girl called Sunny. And I was like, oh, my God, that's so cute. But her partner doesn't like it, so. Hey, lovable rogue. How are you, Groover? Joey Wilson, hello. We do love Sunny Bum Biscuit. I know I should add, every year when you get the microchip notification, you can update details. Maybe I should put Bum in there too. It's really funny because I'm feeding my neighbour's cats for a few days next week, and she's going to be feeding Sunny when I go away, but she actually messaged me and said, I've got the dates for feeding Sunny Bum in my diary. So everyone's calling her Sunny Bum now. So cute. It just came naturally. I don't know why. She has got a very cute round bum, but she's got so many nicknames, that cat. It's not funny how we give our pets a name and then they end up with 30 nicknames. Like she's Moogie, Kiki. I laughed at her one time and my laugh sounded like I was and I've started calling her Kiki. She gets Sunny Bum, obviously. She gets Bubba, Best Girl. I was writing a list of them to my friend the other day. Floofette, Flufferoony, Sunshine, Little Miss Sunshine, Sunny Biscuit. Like, she's got a never-ending list of nicknames. All right, makeup is done. I need my sunglasses. Oh, actually, I probably don't need them, but I'll feel naked if I don't have them with me. My bottle of water. Well, I think that's all I need out of you. And then I can chat for a little while. I've got 25 minutes. Go us. Go us. I'm glad we're wearing masks indoors, though. It'll make me feel a bit safer, weirdly. Ian Ellis has rolled in too. Shalom. Sunny is not going on holiday, no. I thought about smuggling her in, but no. Yep, Sunny Bum. Oh, I'm going somewhere very extravagant and it's very bucket list and I'm justifying it on the grounds that I haven't travelled overseas for the last 3 years, and normally I used to go overseas at least once, sometimes twice a year. So I kind of figure I haven't spent any money on travelling, but it's a place in Tassie called Sapphire. It's Saffire, and it's like the ultimate culinary extraordinaire foodie destination that is also in the most beautiful location. There's a lot of nature going on. And you stay in these incredible villas and they've got a spa, but it's just like, it's lifestyles of the rich and famous. I'm not going to lie. It's overly expensive when you look at it. But then my friends, the Andys, they've been for the last couple of years, and Sapphire doesn't really make a profit from Tasmanians because they've got a lot of activities included and we're doing quite a few of them, but there's also paid tours and things you can do. Like you can go to Hobart for the day, and obviously Tasmanians, we don't do any of that shit because we live here. And the boys have pretty much said by the time you add up the standard of the accommodation, watching your live has got me upside down. You're going to work and I'm ready for... Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Time zones and seasons and everything. It's all wrong. But yeah, you should Google it, Shanna. It's amazing. But the boys, it's their third time they're going. And you get like you stay in these villas that if you were paying for that just as a hotel room or accommodation, you'd be looking at a minimum of $1,000 a night. Like they're insane, with baths with views over pure nature, coastal, rocky mountains, and this expanse of crystal blue water. You go feeding the Tassie Devils at night. We're going oyster shucking. We're doing a wine pairing. We're doing a mixology, like making a cocktail course. We're doing cooking. I'm going to the spa for 2 hours to get massaged within an inch of my life. See you, AJ. Thanks so much for hanging out, gorgeous. Hey, Scout. But then on top of that, it is fine dining, like foodie heaven. So dinners are degustations, and so they're like 10 courses with amazing wines. Plus our rooms have got cellars, like unlimited, help yourself, go for broke. And they bring you food like morning and afternoon tea, and their lunches are insane. Their breakfasts are insane. And so if you start adding up like the meals per head as well, by the time you've done all of that and the included activities, just the toiletries even are worth a shitload. Like, it's special. And yeah, it's bucket list. And I normally wouldn't be able to justify it, but because I haven't travelled for 3 years, I am. You watched 60 Minutes Australia today about the huge extravagant houses. Oh, God, I know the McMansions. Mind you, I saw an interview with... Is Shaquille O'Neal the one that's now huge? Like, he's really tall but big, solid, chunky? Shaq? I think it was him. And he's got this house in Florida that you can virtually see from the moon. It's so big. It's got a blue roof. They showed aerial shots of it, like it's gigantic. And it's got 15 bathrooms and whatever. It was on a YouTube short. He might have been being interviewed by Ellen. And she said to him, how many rooms? Like, he built 4 basketball courts, enclosed, like he built a basketball stadium, essentially. But he was asked how many rooms he used, and he said the kitchen and the bedroom. And then she said, what about the living room? And he's like, no. I'm either in the kitchen eating or I'm in my bed sleeping. That's it. But it's fucking gigantic, guys. Like, it's got its own private jetty, and it's in Florida. And I haven't seen a house like that in Australia anywhere. Not to say it doesn't exist, but that was like a new level of extreme. I mean, the house that Chris Hemsworth built in Byron Bay is pretty obscene. He got into a lot of trouble with the locals. He put them offside because of the disregard for the environment. And it looks like a shopping centre or a mall. It's pretty ugly. But so was the house that Johnny Depp and Amber Heard stayed in Australia. That place is fucking ugly. He should trade it for a tiny house. I mean, if I had my time over, don't get me wrong, my place isn't big. Like, I kind of built a tiny house with a bit of extra room, I guess. But no, it's much bigger than a tiny house. But I love my simple abode. And my friend who lives in San Diego, I've always pictured her as loving the big houses. But she said to me the other day, she's like, your house is my dream house. Like, I just want small, simple, big deck, beautiful views. It's my colleague arriving. And I was surprised because I always thought she loved the big, opulent American houses. Like, her husband's military, and they got posted in lots of different places and always lived in pretty specky homes. Although their house in Hawaii wasn't ostentatious. It was beautiful, but it wasn't over the top. I'll never leave where I live. Be stupid to. Yeah, I'm the same. They can carry me out of my house in a box. I'm not leaving it. No way. Poor old Scout is sweltering. Oh, that 34 is nice. 32 is my favourite temperature. 32 Celsius, not Fahrenheit. Don't be talking 0 degrees. That's not my favourite temperature. Dennis Throckmorton. Hello, Groover. It is amazing. And the Japanese houses and apartments, or apartments really, they freak me out how much, like, how many practical gadgets they have in tiny apartments. I'm actually reducing a lot of my house layout, minimalising, as you guys know, and I've been for a long time, but, you know, down to only having 4 plates in the kitchen and 4 mugs and 4 glasses. And then I've got a dresser in the living area that has all the excess plates if I have a dinner party or whatever. But I'm just trying to make my place so simple. When I used to travel for work and I stayed in hotel apartments, I used to think if I had my time over, this is how I would have set myself up, because they had the basics and that was it. And it was such easy living. I just realised how much shit you own that you don't need. So I'm sort of modelling my kitchen on like a hotel apartment kitchen, and I'm just having 4 of everything accessible. But I've got spares if I have a dinner party or something like that. But like there's a shelf in my kitchen that's got like 10 mugs on it. When the fuck am I having 10 people in my house at the same time for coffee? Never. You have a cool house that was empty for years and repossessed by the bank. Oh, yeah, they're a good purchase. It was designed by architect minimal. Yeah, my place is very minimal and simple. Even like it's got good storage, but it hasn't got crazy storage, so you just can't store heaps of shit. Like you would need to buy a shed or build a shed for extra storage space, and I love that. I love that the house dictates how much shit I can store. But the plan is ultimately that the built-in robe in the spare bedroom is completely empty, so when people stay, they can hang up all their clothes and... No, don't dox yourself, Sketty Nonna. That would not be smart. Hope you have a good day, bee holder. Oh, Scout, when you work, I got totally into Tiny House Nation, like addicted, and loved it, except for families of 4 or 5 and tiny houses. I was like, you're fucking insane. And I've got a friend who lives on the peninsula further down from me. They built 2 tiny houses because they've got kids. And one of the tiny houses is literally like a dorm with a bathroom for all the kids. And then the other one is where they live. But those families of 5 or 6 living in a tiny house, I'm like, that's cray-cray. But, Scout, after my addiction to Tiny House Nation and similar channels, I discovered channels that are basically why living in a tiny house sucks. And I thoroughly recommend you watch those videos too before you go down the tiny house road, because there's a lot of tips in there and they're things that you would need to avoid if you want it to be a pleasant experience. Yeah, and some of the designs are incredible. Some of them are really funky, and some of them are so simple and perfect. And then there are other ones where you're like, I would have done without that and that and that. But even down to ones like where the husband plays the saxophone and she's into sewing, and they have like a way of sealing off the end of the tiny house so he can sit in there and play his music without disturbing her, like a little soundproof music room, which becomes her bedroom at night. And then she's got her little magic table that just pops up with her Singer sewing machine welded onto it. But yeah, watch just type into YouTube why tiny houses suck. Or the bad things about living in a tiny house, something like that, and you'll be surprised. Because It doesn't, they don't necessarily talk you out of doing it. They just talk you out of doing the way they did for many reasons. Like, one that came up frequently is the smell of the toilet. And I kind of think if you're moving around with your tiny house, it's all got to be contained. But if you're on a permanent spot, and a lot of them are, like they've got parents who've got shitloads of land and they build the tiny house on the land, they're not going anywhere. Build a little separate bathroom. Don't live in a toilet, basically. There's lots of environmentally friendly little bathrooms that you can do, like little outhouses. But that one was one that came up a lot. A lot of them that move their tiny houses, like just how much it fucked with the joinery and things breaking that they had to replace constantly, and it ended up costing a shitload. But yeah, there's a lot of good advice on there. I just think you should check it out before you commit. Yeah, you've definitely got to, when you do your research. I mean, like I've just got a new air fryer, which I did a roast chicken in it yesterday. It was amazing. It's the most tender chicken I've ever cooked. I couldn't believe it. But I read so many reviews before I decided on the one that I got. And so far, I mean, I'm experimenting with it. I've already worked out it's not great for toast because it takes longer than grilling it or toasting it in a toaster. Same with I made a toasted sandwich. Like I'm experimenting and working out what I like in it and what I don't. But reheating food's fantastic because I always look at my oven and think, I can't believe how much money I'm spending on power to heat that oven up. But then I also researched how economic they are, and they don't really make that big of a difference on your bill, but they do make a tiny difference. And I'm like, well, any difference is good. Because they explained that with an oven, once it gets to that temperature, then the oven just kicks into maintaining that temperature mode, and it's not using a lot of power to do that. With an air fryer, it's constantly on full bore, so they kind of balance each other out. Tiny House Nation is one of them, Beholder. I'm not sure if is it Tiny House Nation that has the Kiwi host. One of them's got a New Zealander host who's great. But there's a lot of Tiny House channels, but Tiny House Nation is the one that I probably have watched every episode. We've already talked about our addiction to Airstreams. The worst thing about being in Australia, it's very hard to get your hands on a Bambi Airstream, my dream van. But I do keep looking at the VW ones that you can get here, and they're pretty awesome too. But the Airstream Bambi is my ultimate dream van. Yeah, and once you find Tiny House Nation and you're watching that and subscribe, then you get all the links to all the other ones. There's hundreds of them. There's also TV shows. Like enjoy. You're about to embark on a journey. They're addictive. But you do get, even if you're not going to end up in a tiny house, you do get really good ideas about how you can minimise your belongings a bit and use your space more wisely. And like there's things in a tiny house that you can apply in a home. The air fryer, yeah. Well, I'll be doing some cooking in my Mighty Chef. I love it. It's like a little miniature version of my oven. It's stainless steel. It's got the same handles. It matches. And my oven, the brand is Chef. And it's got Chef with like a little cartoon chef's hat on it. And the Mighty Chef has as well. I'm like, I didn't mean to be matchy, but I am. It kind of makes sense, I guess, at my taste in choosing an air fryer. So I started out with just the basket air fryer, and I was like, within 2 days, I'm like, I need to get a bigger one. And so mine looks like a little oven. It's got racks and it's got a rotisserie, and it's a bit fancy, but I got an amazing deal on Amazon, and like it was $200. My sister said, are these air fryers like Thermomixes? Are they just, a really expensive fad and you're going to buy it and then it's going to sit on your shelf and on your bench and you're not going to use it? And I was like, I don't think so, because so far I love everything I've made. I mean, I've made some things that have been nice, but I know I can make them better using a different method. But I said to her, look, worst case scenario, if it is a fad, it's a $200 fad, not a $3,500 fad. Oh, I love a stuffed jalapeno. There's a 1964 Airstream for sale in Vic. It's gorgeous. Yeah, but is it a Bambi, Joey? We'll be cooking all kinds of things. I want to make a cake. Yeah, I've got a little rotisserie thing that I did the chook on. It was great. It was just sat in the air fryer for 40 minutes rotating, and then Ada came and it was so tender. It was unbelievable. But you guys are awesome. I hope you have a lovely Sunday night or a beautiful Monday wherever you are. I'm going to head into work. And wish me luck with getting to work from home next week. I'm hoping my boss is reasonable. I can't say that she won't be, because I've worked from home 50% of the time in the last 12 months. So the directive from a federal health person for employers to let their staff work from home when it's feasible, the argument that it's feasible is very strong for us because we all do it already. But I'm going to go, Groovers. Have a beautiful night, day, wherever you are. Thanks for hanging out with me. And I'm sorry I haven't been very prevalent or present on YouTube, but hopefully that'll change very soon, especially with some leave coming up. I'm going to have a lot of time to do some quality stuff. We've got our baby wombat coming soon as well. Yeah, Bambi is the little one. Oh, cool. I'll have to check it out. I'll type it into the Google search later. But I love you guys. Stay warm if you're in a cold place and stay cool if you're in a warm place. And I'll see you all again very soon. Much love, Groovers.